All right, all good? All right, great. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order of the MAPC Executive Committee meeting for January 18th, 2023. We're meeting remotely via Zoom video conference consistent with Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022. And because of that, I will call the roll to start this meeting. Quickly, before I call the roll, I'm not sure if a note went out, but Mark will be unable to join us this morning as he has the privilege of attending the Attorney General's swearing in at this same time. So he's at a very good reason to miss today's meeting, but will be in the very capable hands of Lizzie and Catherine as we go through the agenda. But with that, let me call through the roll. Imai.
Here.
Sharonda. See Sharonda. Colette.
Here.
Kurt.
Here.
Karen.
Here.
Adam, I'm here. Jen.
Here.
Tom Daniel.
Here.
John DePriest.
Here.
Mo Handel.
Here.
Shagun. I think I've seen him. Tabor. Angie.
Here.
Gina. I'm not going to have Gina today. Steve Olenoff.
Here.
Courtney Rainey. Vandana.
Present.
Sam.
Here.
Steve Silvera.
Present.
Skip that. Juan Vega. Elaine Vanya.
Present.
And Aaron Wortman will not be here today. All right, so the meeting is officially called to order. First order of business is the approval of minutes from December 14th, 2022 and November 16th, 2022. I believe everybody's received a copy of the minutes. Are there any questions, comments? And if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve both minutes in one motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Colette, seconded by Steve Olenoff. Any further questions? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Imai.
Aye.
Sharonda.
Aye.
Colette.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Sharonda's here. Sorry, I didn't know you joined us, Sharonda. Good morning. Colette said aye. Kurt.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Adam, I vote aye. Jen.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Mo.
Aye.
Shagun. Tabor. Angie.
Aye.
Gina. Steve Olenoff.
Aye.
Courtney. Vandana.
Aye.
Sam.
Yes.
Steve Silvera.
Aye.
Juan. Elaine. And Aaron.
Aye.
Thank you, Elaine.
I'm just
Right.
noting that Courtney said yes in the chat section.
Thank you. Yeah, Courtney has noted she's without a voice today, so she'll be voting in the chat section if you could record that.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, minutes pass. So let's move to agenda item number 3, which is a project update supporting residents dealing with COVID in communities north of Boston. Lizzie or Catherine, would you like to introduce the project update?
I'm so excited to introduce this project update, Adam. Thank you so much. So we are really glad to bring you this update today. I think everyone knows that MAPC was very deeply involved with COVID throughout the pandemic. It turns out it hasn't gone away, and neither has our work, which has been ongoing. And we have a fabulous team who's going to give you an update on some of the work that we have been doing, particularly in communities north of Boston, with Cambridge and the North Suffolk Contract Tracing Collaboratives. It's really hard to say that. And I'm so impressed just consistently by this work and the team that has been doing it, and the wonderful addition that they have been to have them working with us at MAPC, led by the fearless Mark Fine and Barry Keppard. I think actually they were both going to try to join, but I don't see them on today. So hopefully they'll pop on while the team is talking. And I appreciate everyone letting them go first. They have another meeting to get to. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to them.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So let's see, Mark, it sounds like is not here, right? All right, so,
Yeah, he just requested the link. I'm sending it to him right now, so he
Okay.
should be hopping on.
okay, great. So I will just start then by introducing myself and then handing it over to Lisa and Lady. My name is Ursula Kichkovsky. I am the lead investigator of the team, and I came from working, I have a social work background and previously worked throughout the pandemic at the statewide initiative of the CTC, the Contact Tracing, Community Tracing Collaborative. And have been really happy to continue this work through MAPC. So I will pass it over to Lisa and Lady for brief introductions. Maybe Lisa, you could go first, and then Lady.
Thank you, Ursula. So my name is Lisa. Like Ursula mentioned, I came in from the CTC too. So my background is in psychology, and I'm just pursuing my PhD in social work. And I have the certification in community health worker. So I have like a lot of experience working in the community. So right now, I'm working as a care resource coordinator. So I'm gonna pass to Lady.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the invite. My name is Lady Duque. I'm a care resource coordinator. My background, I used to work with the City Hall here at the Revere. So I was with a community engagement team where I do a lot of resources. So I'm very excited and very happy to be here. And thank you again for inviting us.
Great, thank you. So I will share some slides and talk a bit about the program and what we have learned so far. So give me a moment to get started. All right. So the Cambridge and North Suffolk COVID-19 Case Investigation and Resource Coordination Team is a collaboration between MAPC, CPHD, Cambridge Public Health Department, /CHA, and the municipalities of Cambridge, Chelsea, Revere, and Winthrop. And just a brief overview of the agenda. I'm going to go over the project, the team, the way that the workflow, the workflow or operations, resource coordination, and then we'll look at the data. So just for a very brief project overview, excuse me. As the Community Tracing Collaborative, which was the statewide initiative to do contact tracing, as that came to a close near the end of 2022, COVID-19 contact tracing and resource coordination responsibilities were passed back to each of the 351 local public health departments. As that transition was being planned, MAPC, in collaboration with CHA and CPHD, excuse me, and the local health departments of Chelsea, Revere, and Winthrop secured funding, excuse me, for continued COVID-19 mitigation efforts in Cambridge and North Suffolk. And so sorry. And then in April of 2022, the CCRW, the Cambridge, Chelsea, Revere, and Winthrop Case Investigation and Resource Coordination Team was launched with oversight from the Cambridge Public Health Department's Director of Epidemiology. And I do have a hard time. Sometimes my slides don't want to advance. So just give me a moment. There we go. So in terms of the team that was formed, we have 3 case investigators. They are Cambridge Public Health / Cambridge Health Alliance employees. They all came from the CTC and they have regional familiarity, and 2 of them are multilingual. So we are able to provide interviews in Spanish, Portuguese, and English, and then through translation services for any other language necessary. We have our 2 resource coordinators who you met, our MAPC employees. As you learned, both Lisa and Lady have extensive COVID-19 resource coordination experience, as well as regional familiarity. And both are bilingual. And then we have our epidemiologist, director of epidemiology and data services at CPHD, and myself. Very briefly, just want to kind of explain how the workflow goes. We get positive cases from the statewide, the Massachusetts Virtual Epidemiological Network, a database that has where all of the cases for infectious diseases are stored. So we get cases from there. Case investigators reach out, conduct interviews, provide COVID-19 isolation guidance, treatment information, vaccine access information. They screen for any resource needs during the isolation period, and just provide a lot of information and support for folks who are learning that they have COVID and maybe, struggling navigating different things. If the case needs anything in order to be able to isolate at home without leaving, whether it's treatment, food, medication, whatever that might be, financial assistance, then a referral is made to resource coordination. And just to explain briefly how the resource coordination component works, we have community partners. So we aren't providing resources. We are partnering with existing resources in the community and facilitating the connection to resources. So we have established referral pathways with Jewish Family and Children Services, which is based out of Waltham, La Colaborativa, which is based in Chelsea, and the Cambridge Economic Opportunity Council in Cambridge. They are meeting the majority of immediate needs, and sometimes we are also referring folks for longer term needs. So that might be SNAP enrollment, housing, I'm drawing a blank, but any of the insurance, longer term need categories. And as I mentioned, we are focusing on addressing immediate needs to assist people during the isolation period, but we are always also screening for longer term needs and access to resources within the community. Before I jump into the data, I just want to take a moment to recognize that while data is, or just to recognize that every number, every data point is an individual, and an individual, not only an individual, but a person in their household, in their family, in their community. And it also represents, each of these numbers represents a relationship that someone on our team has formed with a community member, a resident of one of the municipalities that we're working with. And the scope of individuals that we're reaching is as varied, obviously, as the communities of the greater Boston area. And so we are just kind of working with a really interesting cross-section and really, really trying to always consider social determinants of health and how we can contribute to longer-term positive health outcomes for people in our communities. So in the period of April 2022 through December of 2022, our mighty team of 3 case investigators completed over 6,000 outreach calls to positive cases. That resulted in almost 3,000 completed interviews. The reason that number is lower is because sometimes calls go to voicemail, sometimes somebody is hospitalized or an interview cannot be completed for whatever reason. And of all of those completed interviews, 2,901 1,239 households were referred for resource coordination. So it's a lot of folks, and the 1,239 is just the number of households. So the actual number of specific resource needs is significantly higher, because most households have a need for more than one resource category. This just shows an overview of our case counts from April through December. So as we all recall, April, May, June was a wild ride. Things have leveled out and then picked up again in December, naturally, with holidays, etc. Our team has been able to really consistently provide outreach and connection with positive cases. If we look at the graph on the left, I just want to point out this shows a breakdown of what call results. So the dark blue will show call attempts, and the number, we have priority groups. So it would be impossible to reach out to every positive case in our 4 municipalities. We have priority groups based on age. So we're targeting elders and households with children and public housing. And so we can see with the dark blue that we have a consistent rate of outreach. And then on the right side, again, we can see that the majority of calls here are, this is probably kind of hard to read, but the 2,903 here is completed interview, which is far more than all the rest. Left voicemail, never reached, partially completed, declined, or hospitalized. So team is doing a great job completing interviews. And then in terms of language, I just wanted to give a little overview. We have so many languages that we are interacting with on a regular basis because of location. Spanish, we have a high proportion of Spanish speakers and also a significant number of Portuguese speakers. You can see here, this is showing Spanish, Portuguese, Spanish and English. So depending on comfort level, and then Italian, Arabic, Bengali, and Haitian Creole. So this is just the languages that we see most commonly. But yeah, we are able to communicate with the language line for folks speaking any other language. And then in terms of resource coordination needs, the graph on the right can show, sorry, here we go. Graph on the right shows us, if we look at the turquoise, this is comparing the rate or the percentage of resource coordination needs among English speakers and non-English speakers. So non-English speakers are experiencing a higher rate of support needs during their isolation period. And this is just one breakdown. This happens to be from the period, the past 3 weeks, but just an interesting overview of the high rate of, or the high need really of resource support and coordination among Spanish-speaking communities in Chelsea and Revere especially. So just in sum, over 50% of case investigation calls that were completed in languages other than English needed resource coordination, and just over a third of case investigation calls that were conducted in English needed resource coordination. And top needs are food delivery, mask delivery, rapid tests, treatment, so Paxlovid, vaccine support, that would be, for folks who are not fully vaccinated, giving us information and assisting with access to vaccines, financial assistance, PCP or medical support, and then diapers and formula. As I mentioned, we are primarily screening for and addressing immediate COVID-related needs, but we are also trying to connect folks with sources of support for long-term food security, financial support, elder support, mental health, social support, etc. As we have evolved over the past, 8 months since starting in April, the landscape has changed. Testing is really different. People are using at-home tests and PCR testing is declining. Things have grown and shifted, and we have evolved with that. So we've been able to establish an inbound line where folks who aren't testing positive on PCRs but are testing positive on rapid tests can call in, request information, request resource coordination, etc. We have established an emergency fund that is for households when our community partners are unable to meet an essential and urgent needs, such as baby formula, food, diapers, that type of thing. We have an extensive resource database that is regularly updated. Our project has a website. We've also been able to engage seniors in senior services, so making retrospective calls to seniors that we've worked with to see if they're involved with the senior center, really in an effort to increase social support and to decrease isolation for seniors. And that was a request that came from the health departments. And then vaccine support, and folks on the team have helped in various ways, including actual on-the-ground assistance at, helping at vaccine clinics in Chelsea and in Cambridge, also text initiatives, infographics or flyers that are handed out at vaccine clinics that talk about what to expect. And so we are continuing to try to offer the service, offer our knowledge and experience and services to a wider group of people, just to increase the access, to make sure that folks are aware of what's available and provide this education. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm really grateful to be able to share this with you. The stories, I just in wrapping up, I'll just share that our team has a particular strength at building relationships with residents, and we've had numerous situations of cases that spoke to a case investigator or a resource coordinator who called back months later to ask, oh, where was it again that I could get my vaccine? Or I got COVID again, how do I get treatment? Or, whatever it is. We had one really grateful person say to a case investigator at the end of the call, oh, I love you, thank you so much. And just this effusive kind of gratitude for the support and guidance that's being provided. And we work with, just to give, I gave highlights, but we're also helping folks who have no housing, who have, newborn babies, 24-day-old baby, the one household had and was all sick with COVID. So it's quite a range of different needs and just an overall endeavor to support our communities as they experience COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ursula. Any Mark, I know you joined right as Ursula was kicking it off. Any comments or anything you want to mention?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would just say like this has been really amazing work to be a part of. I mean, it has been new for MAPC. Like we are the coordinator for the North Suffolk Public Health Collaborative, which is a Chelsea Revere and Winthrop partnership that we helped establish and long have served in that role. But this, COVID kind of changed everything, obviously, and because of that collaborative, and then the partnership we were able to build with Cambridge, we were able to really create this team with some great capacity and identify really wonderful people to staff it. And I mean, if anything, when you think about what they're doing, when you look at like the healthcare landscape and how fragmented and overstretched it is, I mean, this is kind of in some ways a gap that's being filled by the team as they're helping people navigate to resources and, in many ways connecting them to the healthcare system in a way that they wouldn't be. I mean, it is worth noting too that, given the way COVID's played out and how testing is done, and the fact is most of these cases are coming through the conventional reporting channels. Well, we know a lot of cases aren't going through that anymore. So I mean, that's when Ursula mentions the inbound line, and also, we're kind of working with the communities to kind of promote that inbound line, because we know there's a lot of people who could use support who aren't getting it because they're not, their cases aren't being reported, via the state system. So, we're constantly evolving this. I would say when we look at the future, we are going to try to keep this team going beyond, the current grant deadline, which is June 2023. We hope that this will be extended. We're working with DPH and others to try to do that. So, obviously, I think COVID isn't going away, and there's just a huge amount of needs out there. And I think this team and the resources provided could pivot in a lot of really important ways to support, public health in these communities, and also serve, I think, as a model, for what other partnerships like this could look like across the region. So, Ursula, Lady, Lisa are wonderful. They're and do such great things, and it's been awesome to be a part of. And I would say just, internally, like my team and then our public health department and Barry Keppard, play a shared role in working, with this group. So thanks for presenting today, and thanks to the committee for inviting me.
Thank you, Mark. And thanks to the whole team. I really appreciate it. I think we probably have time for one, maybe two questions. If any members of the executive committee have any questions for the team. Imai.
Thanks. First of all, really impressive numbers on the calls and outreach, to reach that many people. And while I am, fully acknowledging your point that each data point is a person, I'm curious about one refinement of the data. You listed like the top needs that were had. I'd be curious just to see like which one was the most, rank them in what was the most prevalent need. Like, was it testing, was it food support, see what those came out to be, and just curious as to like what folks are needing most out there.
Absolutely. By far, the need for test kits and masks is always the highest, followed by food. And tests and masks, that makes sense. Tests and masks, and then I would say food, treatment, and vaccine support would be the next. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Time for one last question before we move on. All right. Oh, go ahead, Colette.
I can't find my raise hand function fast enough. So my only question was, realizing that this is a benefit to the region and that there's a grant here that, may or may not find funding in the future, is the goal really to institutionalize this as a collaborative between these towns, and it should be sort of baked into the municipal budgets of those towns? Is that where it's heading? I thought that might have been what I heard you saying, Mark.
Well, yeah, I mean, so part of the collaborative, like the North Suffolk Public Health Collaborative was established, about 6 years ago. So before COVID, before these grants, kind of became available, So they do have an ongoing partnership, and MAPC serves as a coordinator role for that. So they have a, it's an intermunicipal agreement that's formed that's something that will kind of, last one way or the other. I mean, with the grants, yeah, I mean, this was federal funding, kind of out of, probably the CARES Act back in the day. And, I think, there's still some money that the state has to support this type of work. And I think they're trying to think through sort of where and how much they have to support a range of partnerships. And this is one of them. I mean, there are other groups of communities that have done similar things. I would say, though, institutionalizing this, I mean, I think, beyond COVID, there's just a huge amount of folks in these communities with real needs, and I mean, sometimes COVID becomes a touch point for sort of, Lisa or Lady to make the call, but then you realize that it's broad, the needs of the people they're talking to are broader than just kind of the immediate COVID situation. So, I mean, when you look around, like just the need for navigation and support to get into the healthcare system, the need for, a range of kind of assistance, where the clinical pathways are kind of strained or delayed. There is, I mean, if anything, I think a lot of municipalities have sort of started filling gaps in sort of the healthcare and social service network, whether they wanted to or not. They've kind of had to because they've seen these needs. So, I mean, I think we're trying to think about how to continue this team's work, but then how to think about this as just, what does public health look like going forward at the local level, and where does it need to, to pivot to? So, yeah, I mean, I think, you're right. Like there's a level of institutionalization and kind of, creating this capacity at the local level that we're looking to see happen.
If I could also just add, I really think kind of to what Mark's saying, it really speaks to that moment that we're in where our work is becoming increasingly more interdisciplinary. And so, we call this public health work, we call it municipal collaboration work, but it's actually, I think to the point in the presentation, this sort of like whole person approach in planning. And so I think it's an important thing to kind of think about this as an example of that effort that we're trying to kind of continue to do at the agency with multiple municipalities.
Thank you, Lizzie. And
I think Lady has her hand up, probably wanted to add another piece.
I also just want to add, like, even though it's COVID related, sometimes when I call cases, they also don't know how to have like a PCP, or they don't have PCP. So I'm able to just, reach out to the insurance, and then I call up the hospital and just try to set up like an appointment to a PCP. I have a couple of cases that they don't even know, like, oh, I cannot because I don't speak the language. Or like, I don't know how to set up an appointment with a doctor because I don't have a doctor, and they don't have doctors like for 3 or 4 years. So we are also able to make that connection to the doctors as well.
thank you for that. Mark, I have to say, referring to the CARES Act as back in the day is a terrifying statement that marks how quickly time passes. I don't question it. It's just very scary to hear it put that way. So with that, we'll move on, but I want to say thank you to the project team and the whole team of the MAPC for both the work and the presentation. Really, really impressive work. And I do hope going forward that collectively, not just the MAPC, but the state and municipalities can find a way to institutionalize this type of work, not just in these communities, but in every community that needs it. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you again for having us. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so with that, let's move to number 4, report of the treasurer, which I think we will start with Treasurer Sam.
Thank you, President Adam, and Sam Seidel, Treasurer. Hello to everybody. We'll just look at the income statements from October and November, which you received in an email. I think the biggest takeaway is always the overhead rate. That's kind of the shorthand for everything that's going on. And I would only make a couple of points about that. In October, you see the overhead rate for the month is really quite high again, still, which follows on the pattern that we were in before of 131%. And then by November, it drops way down to 112%. That's a good thing. The underlying story there is that the direct labor, the billable hours, the time that people spend billing to clients has been low for the start of the fiscal year. That's new people coming on board. That's vacation time being taken. That's maternity leave. It's all these reasons that they bill to admin expenses rather than to direct labor and to the actual client, if you will. That being said, it gives us an overhead rate at the end of November of 122.9%, 123% basically, which is above the 118% that we've gotten approved for the year. We're in November, we're about halfway. We're not quite at the halfway part. December is the halfway part. And in speaking with Anna, we are looking at the numbers in December right now, and we are curious about what those numbers will be. Basically, two things happen in December. People try to finish up projects that have a December 31st deadline, but they're also trying to take time off for the holidays, et cetera. So Anna's working through those numbers right now, and we will look at those once they are ready, which will be next month or sometime. Other than that, the only thing I would point out is that at the very bottom line going across the sheet is net income increase to fund balance. In October, we ran a deficit. In November, we had a surplus. For the year, we're still running a deficit of 70,000, almost 71,000, but we feel that over the course of the year, that's going to work itself out. I don't think there's a lot of angsting about that. That's just a number that's in there, and we think by next June we should be just fine. We are approaching the mid-year budget time, so we will look at all of these numbers in greater depth at that time. The finance committee will get together, and then we'll report that back out to the executive. That pretty much covers the treasurer's report. I'll entertain any questions or comments.
Thank you, Sam. Any further comments from Catherine or Anna?
No? I'll just add thank you, Sam, for that recap, and Anna might have some more too, but I just want to underscore that really our November numbers show that while some months you're a little higher, some months you're a little lower, our overhead rate is really coming where we expect it to be. Over the summer, we had a lot of vacancies and staff out, but now those folks are on and fully onboarded. And yes, of course, throughout the year, there'll be, unfortunately, other people leaving and fortunately new people coming on, but we feel like we are in a good place in terms of being able to realize the revenue that we have. Anna, is there anything else that you wanted to add on that?
No, I think you did a good job explaining that. Thank you very much, both you and Sam. So I am I am confident that we're going to be fine, on the long term as the year progresses, especially, given the historical trends. Normally there's a much higher charge to direct labor from January through June rather than the first 6 months of the year, even with vacations and with the vacancies that we've had.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Anna. Great. Any questions? All right. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to accept this report of the treasurer.
So moved.
Second.
That was motion by Colette, seconded by Mo.
Oh, John DePriest.
John, thank you. I'm limited by how many faces are on the screen, being able to pick up the voice and the face. All right. So with that, I will call the roll. Imai.
Aye.
Sharonda.
Aye.
Colette.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Adam, I vote aye. Jen.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Mo.
Aye.
Shagun.
Aye.
Tabor.
Aye.
Angie. Oh, we lost Angie. Steve Olenoff.
Aye.
Sam Seidel.
Aye.
Steve Silvera.
Aye.
And Elaine. Do we have Elaine? No, Elaine. Okay. All right. Motion passes. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, team. Moving on to item number 5, report of the executive director. In Mark's absence, we will hear from both Lizzie and Catherine.
Yeah, I'm happy to go ahead and kick this off. So just a few updates that I wanted to share since we last met with you. One, seeing Elaine here, I want to note that we recently just signed our agreement for the 2023 DLTA District Local Technical Assistance funds that we get from the state each year. For the regular DLTA, we expend those funds over the calendar year, so January through December, and we use that to fund our technical assistance program or the TAP work that we do, and that's $647,000 that we get from the state, and then there's additional match. What's the reason I'm raising this is because what's new and different this year is that we also received from the previous administration augmentation funds. And so those augmentation funds are to allow regional planning agencies to help cities and towns access state and federal resources. And for federal resources in particular, there's a lot of focus right now on the bipartisan infrastructure law and also making sure that they're aware of what's available under the Inflation Reduction Act. And so we're thrilled to be able to do this work. For us, that means that's going to be $432,000. What's also different here is instead of just being a calendar year, it's actually 18 months. So we'll be able to use this from January 1st of this year through June 30th of 2024. We are talking to our fellow regional planning agencies because this is new and different and exciting for all of us about how we're going about this work. Are there ways that we can leverage each other's efforts? We'll certainly be using MetroCommon to help us set our priorities for the type of work that we want to advance through these resources. And we can use these funds to staff our own time to do the work, also to convene working groups or to host webinars to get information out, also to apply for some of these resource opportunities, which you can't do with normal DLTA funds, but we can do it with these new augmentation funds. An example of where we're actually going to be working with the state to apply for federal funds that would help our cities and towns is we are working with Department of Energy Resources to apply for a U.S. Department of Energy grant for implementing codes. And this is so timely right now, given that the state just released updates to the stretch code and also the new specialized opt-in code. So these funds couldn't come at a better time, and we're excited to help the state apply for these resources. And then even separate from that, we're working with DOER on outreach about what these new codes are. So those are the big updates on the DLTA front that I wanted to share. I also wanted to note that in December, we awarded our third cohort of the Accelerating Climate Resilience Grants. This was our largest cohort yet. We get this funding from the Barr Foundation, and we awarded 13 projects totaling $800,000. They're 1 to 2 year projects. Just looking at the faces that I see on the screen, a few that I want to highlight is in Scituate. We're giving them $100,000 to do additional planning. I see Karen cheering. I love this because when I went with Karen to visit Scituate, she was talking to me about the work MAPC had done, and this came out of a resilience plan. And we're talking about, okay, so how do we implement that plan? What next? And we talked about applying, for this grant. I was not on the review committee, so I didn't throw anything any special way, but it's just so exciting to now see we're able to take this plan that we did, fund the next steps through the ACR program, and then with those studies and plans that will be done with this funding, then that will allow Scituate to then access additional resources for the actual construction. In Cambridge, we're doing some work with artists about designing creative and equitable heat mitigation strategies, specifically around shade. And so really looking at shade as a civic resource, as an index of inequality. You can really see disparities in shade, whether it's from tree canopy or other reasons, and then like the public health impacts of that. And so it's exciting to be doing this work with the city, and also we're engaging the artist community in this important mitigation work. And then finally, I see John here. So I just want to mention the Chelsea project where we're working with Green Roots to pilot a white roof at the Boys and Girls Club in Chelsea. And so the idea is that this is also a climate mitigation strategy by reducing urban heat island effects. And if we find that this is a successful approach, it's certainly something that can be replicated on other buildings, not just in Chelsea, but throughout the region. So very excited to get those awards out the door. Also an update on our data from our data services team is they are about to complete a statewide analysis of population, employment, and housing projects, and they're doing this work in partnership with the Donahue Institute. So it'll include a lot of interesting findings about future growth in the Commonwealth, and I think with the new administration coming in, which Lizzie will talk about next, and what we're hearing from them is affordability and climate, and so certainly it's great to have this new analysis coming out soon. Also, something else that we wanted to share with the executive committee is that you've heard us talk about previously, we had issued an RFP for a strategic plan and a diversity, equity, and inclusion assessment, and we put out an RFP to seek a single contractor or team to do that work. And based on a review of those proposals, we found that there was no one that we felt that could successfully do both of those pieces. And so we made the hard decision, but the right decision to instead, not make any awards at this time, to split this into two different RFPs. We truly appreciate all of the work of the review committee that included some folks here. And we look forward to still doing this work, to getting those RFPs out soon. But just wanted you to know that that is where we are on that. And I believe Lizzie has a few additional updates.
Thanks, Catherine. Yes, I do. I have like two and then a small kudos shout out that I want you all to know about. So first update I just wanted to share was we, I think it was just last week, had the first of a series of 3 webinars that we're holding on substance use disorder. I think most of you were at our council meeting when Deb Schmill, who's related to Rick Mann, shared her story, and we offered our Rick Mann Award this year to members of the community who've really advanced substance use disorder work in our region. Deb had actually come to us and asked that we re-engage on this issue. It's something that we've done mostly through the Metro Mayor's Coalition for a number of years now, but we decided it was really the right time to re-engage more broadly on this work with more communities and kind of do a deeper dive on sort of the public health pieces and the wraparound services pieces. So we kicked off that first webinar last week. Deb once again shared an incredibly moving story with the participants. We had over 100 people. There are 2 more webinars in the series. And I'm wondering if maybe Andrea could do, or Georgia could do that magic thing where they put a link in the chat so you can register for those. I just want to shout out, it was a number of teams really that came together to do this work. So it was municipal collaboration, public health, government affairs, and our communications team. We have a fully staffed communications team now, I think everybody's aware, and they've just been doing a fabulous job really getting the word out and kind of finding like the right level of messaging to keep our participation really high. And then we are doing I just kind of connected to this work, we're doing some ongoing work with our Metro Mayor's communities at the moment to weigh in, particularly on some of the wraparound services and related housing related priorities on these issues. So I wanted to highlight that work. I'm really proud that we're kind of re-upping this effort and kind of taking it from a bunch of different angles. And I see that Mo has a question, which I am happy to answer.
No,
not related to this. Okay. I'm glad to keep going. So I wanted to let everyone know that we have just kicked off some of our urban agriculture work. So that is just starting up now. And it's an exciting project in our public health team that I just wanted to highlight. It's funded by the USDA. And it essentially addresses food insecurity issues in 4 neighborhoods in Boston. So focused on East Boston, Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan. And we're really excited to kick off this work. It's always wonderful to have an opportunity to work with the city. But, I will say, and I know I'll talk about this in a minute, agriculture actually ended up being a focus, a small one, but a focus inside the transition report to the Healy administration. around some issues around climate and environment, and particularly around increasing our urban agriculture. So I'm excited that this work is kicking off, and I'm sure we'll have more to stay tuned on this. And then the last thing I wanted to share with all of you is really just a shout out to our colleague Sharon Ron. She was recently co-authored a paper in the peer-reviewed journal Environmental Justice. The work was actually funded by a 5-year NIH grant, and it was focused on a participatory charrette that we did in Chinatown. And it's a really wonderful paper. I'm going to try to see if I can put a link to it here so all of you can read it. But it's, MAPC is full of academics, but it is not every day that our colleagues are published in a peer-reviewed journal. So I just wanted to shout it out as a little kudos to Sharon, because we were really excited to see it. And I think that's it on updates. Catherine, did we have anything else, or did we get through it?
I think we
All right.
all of it. Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Lizzie. Any questions for either Catherine or Lizzie on their reports? Okay, seeing none. So our next item is the legislative committee, but I'm seeing another member needing to leave. And I think the only other vote is number 8. Andrea, should we take that vote, or Lizzie, you think we should just take that vote to make sure we don't lose quorum?
I think we'll still have quorum. We're at around, I think we'd be at around 13, which is still quorum.
Okay, anybody else needs to leave? Okay, we'll stay on schedule. I don't want to run into a problem. All right, then. So why don't we go to item number 6, report of the legislative committee. Keith, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll start out first. Stay right where you are, because I'm going to hand it back to Lizzie and government affairs team for the update. There were no fresh votes from the legislative committee, but we look forward to bringing a whole bunch to you in the coming weeks and months. Thanks.
Thanks, Keith. And I'm actually going to pass it over to Leah and Matt and Georgia to give kind of the update on where we are on bill filing at the start of the session. Let's see. I don't see any of them coming on their screen. I know Leah was having some technical difficulties today.
I don't think Leah's on the call, but
I see her.
Oh, here she is. Yeah.
She was, yeah.
Let's see. All right, I see Matt. Thanks.
Yeah.
Matt.
So hello, everybody. I think Leah is probably having some technical difficulties, so I can jump in. Essentially, we're just excited to get to work on the suite of legislative priorities, which you approved. I believe that was still last month. Yes, last month. And I can run through some of those really quickly if you just give me 1 minute to pull up the document. Sorry for the delay. All right. So I'll start off with new legislative priorities because these are the freshest and most exciting, and you've heard about many of the continuing priorities before. At the top of our list, and one thing I'll also note before diving in actually is that this year we've oriented all of our priorities around Metro Common, wanting to really put the plan to work in its first full legislative session. So each of these bills is put into a Metro Common category. And the first I'll start with is inclusive growth and mobility, one of the first chapters of Metro Common. So in inclusive growth and mobility, we'll be doing some work on TNC data and fee structure. So trying to really increase the level of detail that we get on the trips that Uber, Lyft, and other transportation network companies are taking. And also, excuse me, trying to increase the fees so we can get more revenue. We know that these companies are increasingly using our infrastructure, and we just want to make sure that we have the funding that we need to keep up with that use of infrastructure. Additionally, we'll be taking a look at rapid deliveries, which have historically not been seen as kind of in this same universe as TNCs. but we believe they should be. They're using our streets in the same way. They may be delivering food instead of people, but that's the same use of infrastructure at the end of the day. So we're trying to get essentially the same level of data about those rapid deliveries and impose a fee structure on those rapid deliveries because they are so similar, but historically haven't been seen as such. We're also very excited to be working with the arts and culture team on a white paper outlining a suite of policies needed to support the arts and culture community across Greater Boston. So please do look out for that. I believe that should be out in the next couple of months, and we'll be sure to get that to you. Another piece that we're working on, and this is one that I'm working on directly. This is in the Homes for Everyone section, and I'm very excited about it. It's a housing data improvements bill, essentially trying to give all of our communities a look under the hood of the SHI, because we know that people who are doing this really nitty-gritty technical work of trying to determine how many housing units they need to produce in their community need the most granular data that they can possibly get. And that's what we're trying to get through this bill.
Hey, Matt, I just want to jump in. Sorry. Thank you so much for kicking us off, and sorry to be sort of half here and half on baby duty. I'm like a walking example of why we need childcare legislation in Massachusetts, guys. But really what I sort of want to, as a very short summary, encourage you all to check out the Government Affairs website on MAPC. We have revised it. We are going to continue refreshing it. It shows all of the priorities that Matt has been describing that you all voted on at our last meeting. You will soon be seeing emails from us asking for you to contact your legislators to co-sponsor these proposals. That is happening very imminently. As Matt said, the deadline for filing is on Friday. And then soon after, we're going to need to see co-sponsors on all of these bills. And we're really excited for the energy in the building. You know, there's going to be lots of new leadership on the House side, especially on different committees that are really key for us to get to partner with. So we're excited to work with all of you to strengthen those relationships that MAPC has, and really on behalf of cities and towns, make sure that those voices are heard throughout session. So thank you guys so much. We'll drop a link to that new website in a minute, our refreshed website, and looking forward to lots more conversations and more to come from us, especially on budget as time goes on, because as you guys know, the governor has more time to put together her budget in the first year of her session. So we have until March 1st for that budget to come out, but our advocacy has already started for DLTA funding and Shannon and all the other priorities that make cities and towns run. So I'll stop there, Adam, because we're close to time. If there are any questions, you got the whole government affairs team here to help.
Thank you, Leah. Karen, did I see your hand go up?
Yes, I couldn't figure out which button to push for. Just curiously, and Lizzie, all of you, I'm sure know, do we still anticipate local aid numbers to be released at MMA? Yeah, Lizzie's like,
That's a good question. She has extra time on the budget, and so I wouldn't be surprised if she, kind of uses it and doesn't necessarily announce at MMA. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we try to see some preview of where they hope to be. I know
I think at the least she would say is level funding, just for purposes. Okay.
Yeah, I know the team
who had insight on that.
No, I know the team at ANF. It's the one team at ANF that's in place is the budget team, and I know they're already really hard at work. So, I think she would also be hopeful to be able to make some good announcements and friends at MMA. We will all be there taking notes and waiting with bated breath.
Holding out our hands. Yeah.
Lizzie and Leah, wouldn't you think it would be tough for her to make that announcement before the consensus revenue hearing estimate next week?
Yeah, that's my gut. I just think it's going to be difficult. I think it'll be a slightly different speech than what we've heard in the past. My guess is it'll be difficult for her. I mean, I think she could say level because the revenue's up so much, and at least we know we've seen that month over month for the state budget returns. So I wouldn't be surprised if she at least indicated that. But I expect she'll also lean into some of the policy priority places.
Yeah, I feel like I'll be brief with this, but level risks upsetting people.
I know.
Right. So that's, I don't know. I don't know if that would be a smart move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Colette.
I don't have a question per se, but I just wanted to really thank you for the work you're doing with the TNC data and fee structure and rapid deliveries. I can just say from our municipality, we're needing to spend more and more time on mobility related issues, and having that income could maybe help us hire a transportation specialist. And I'm advocating for that within our government, but it's always a question of funding. And I think that there's much more work to do than there was before. And those services are part of the reason there's more work to do. So really very supportive.
Thanks so much. Yeah, we're hearing it's an issue not just in the big cities, but yeah, the suburbs too. It's really, really everywhere across our region.
For sure.
Thank you, Colette. Thank you, Leah. All right. Oh, Steve Volinoff.
Yeah, we just heard that there's a new stretch code coming out. Could you get us a nice summary of that and what it means for us? Something easy for me to read.
It's out. Brookline and Watertown have already adopted it.
Adopted, yeah.
That wasn't even the new stretch code.
That's
the new net zero code. The new stretch code is already in effect, and you don't have to do anything. If you've already adopted the stretch code, the new changes to the stretch code are already impacting nice and easy. Nothing you need to do there. I think DOER has some fact sheets out about what's in it and what's in the new net zero code as well. And I know the clean energy team is working on some, I think, a webinar coming up.
Yeah, we'll be doing a webinar with DOER in mid-February to talk more about the differences between the previous stretch code and these updates, which, as Leah notes, if your community has already adopted it, you're still in it. And then also on the specialized opt-in codes. So that will be in mid-February.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can see if there's something we can drop in the chat and in terms of fact sheets while this group is meeting.
All right, one more question, Imai.
So since we're talking about adopting the enhanced stretch code, one question I've been wondering about and noodling over is if you have a 40B and you have adopted the enhanced stretch code, are they allowed to ask to waive that because it's a local bylaw?
I mean, Lizzie, overrule me, but it's adopted locally, but it's a state code. It's not a local code.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad that's the case.
I mean, worth double checking, but I don't believe the existing stretch code was ever able to be waived by any ZBA.
And it's adopted the same way, right? It's adopted by local vote, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that's what I would think too. But I had to put that question out to the smartest bunch of people I know because I didn't know the answer.
I don't want to think about it too long and give it too much credit. But I think that I think Adam's exactly right. I think the answer is no.
Thanks all.
Great. All right. Thank you, team. All right. So staying on the topic of Beacon Hill, let's move to the next agenda item and hear about the Healy Driscoll administration transition from Lizzie.
Sure. So I'm glad to give this update. I think folks know I got to co-chair the Climate and Environment Readiness Committee with my new friend, Gina McCarthy, who, for the record, was amazing. There were 6 committees that were created as part of the transition process, really pretty broad in nature and designed on purpose to be pretty interdisciplinary. And so, for example, inside our team, like I said, we covered everything from climate-related issues to environment-related issues, but then also touched on workforce development, transportation, and housing where it overlapped, and really aimed to highlight that for the team. The committees were convened just after the election, I'd say about a week or 2 after the election. The appointments to the committees were pretty broad. It was a pretty impressive group of people that were appointed to serve on the individual committees. There were 2 full committee meetings where we actually had these like very dedicated round robin discussions with the committee appointees. We were staffed by a team at the Harvard Kennedy School. And again, if anybody is looking for new people to hire or interns, they were wonderful and brilliant, as you can imagine. And the bulk of the work really happened. There was a lot of behind the scenes work. I'd say each one of the committees, the co-chairs also all met a handful of times together, just as the co-chairs of the individual committees. And, you know, I'd say each one of those co-chairs probably read easily 100 different memos. So memos came to co-chairs either directly. I know a number of you offered perspectives and thoughts, which I really appreciated. And then also through the portal on the transition team. And then those got in some instances, because some people actually sent their dissertation, so sometimes they would get summarized and sent to the co-chairs, but in the vast majority of instances, I'd say they were sent directly to us, and we read and summarized every single one of them. As all good government work does, it concluded just the night before inauguration. So we sent our final memos. We had a pretty strict format that we were asked to follow that really focused on budget priorities, legislative priorities, and administrative things that the team could really take on their own. And focusing mostly on sort of the now timeframe of what can we start within the first 100 days, the next timeframe, which is what are we trying to do through this legislative session, and the later timeframe. So what have we done in these first 100 days and the first, 2 years of the legislative session that we can then tee up to be thinking about longer term. I think almost all the committees really focused on that now and next timeframe. So they've got a very long to-do list ahead of them. And I will say one of the nice things about being on the committee is we had no personnel responsibility. So there was a whole other team focused on that, which was a really wonderful thing because it meant that we could really focus on the policy priorities. So the work has totally concluded. I think there is a plan to make some version of the memos public. And obviously, as soon as that happens, we will gladly share it out with all of you. I cannot send it at this time, though, unfortunately, it's still in the hands of the team, and so I can't share it. MAPC did weigh in with 2 of the committees, and my deep thanks to Catherine, who really spearheaded that effort at the agency with our transportation teams, and then a lot of folks who are working on the climate and environment memo, and we are very glad to share those memos out with you. And I can tell you, I don't think I'm out over my skis to say that we MAPC had a lot of good ideas, and they were included in the final memos that were sent to the Healy team, and I was really proud of that effort. So I think that's it. Quick update on transition, and now we're on to the next. So now we get to push them on all of the good things that we suggested that they do.
Excellent. Thank you, Lizzie, and thanks for your work on the transition committee, leading the transition committee as well.
It was fun.
Any questions for Lizzie on that update? Okay, looks like none. Great. All right, so moving on to our last substantive agenda item, number 8, authorization for the executive director to fill officer vacancies pending the winter council meeting. So we've had some change in the makeup of the officers that we need to discuss with you today. I'm going to ask Lizzie to describe that.
Yes, thanks, Adam. So with the new administration comes a whole lot of what I refer to as dominoes, where people change jobs really quickly, and then it impacts a lot of other things in state government. So our current Vice President Monica Tibbetts-Nutz was named as the Undersecretary to Secretary Gina Fiantaca in Transportation at MassDOT, leaving a vacancy in our in our Vice President position. So we are actually, the executive director is authorized to temporarily fill that position with a vote of this committee. And that, just so folks are aware of the timeline, because again, things only work this way in state government, that temporary authorization extends until our March council meeting. So the temporary position is essentially from whenever you grant this authority until our March council meeting. After many discussions, Jen Constable has agreed to step into that vice president role, but because Jen is currently serving as our secretary, it leaves a vacancy in the secretary position as well. So we end up with 2 vacancies, and Imai has graciously agreed to serve to step into that secretary role for us. So the motion for your consideration is to authorize Mark to temporarily appoint Jen to serve in the vice president role, Imai to serve in the secretary role until our council meeting, at which time we will have an election to fill those 2 vacancies. We fully anticipate and encourage Jen and Imai to run at our council meeting in March. And then they would fill those roles. That election would have them filling those roles until May, when we elect a whole slate of officers again at our annual council meeting. So there's just so folks have a full sense of the timeline, and as a footnote, the complexity of our statute and bylaws. That is sort of the full list of things for your consideration today. But the question before you is considering a motion to allow the executive director to appoint Jen Constable as vice president and Imai as secretary.
So moved.
Motion made by Karen. Do we have a second? Seconded by Tom.
Second.
Thank you. So we have about 17 minutes. I think Jen and Imai could each have about 7 minutes for addresses. Everybody. Kidding. But I do think maybe as secretary, we could get Imai a ring light for his Zoom.
We definitely can do that. Yeah.
Mystery secretary.
I agree.
Any questions or comments about the process? Nope, seeing none. I want to thank both Jen and Imai for stepping up to do this. You know, we all have full plates and a lot to do, but I know I spoke to Jen and Mark spoke to Imai, and Jen was instantly willing to step in and serve the MAPC. So I'm very appreciative of that. I know Imai was willing to do the same. So thank you both very much.
Thank you all.
All right. With that, I will call
Adam, I'm just going to add my own congratulate. Well, we haven't gotten there yet, but also thanks to both of them for being willing to serve.
Thank you, Sam. All right. With that, I will call the roll. Imai.
Aye.
Sharonda. We just lost Sharonda. Colette.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Adam, I vote aye. Jen.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
John. That I didn't hear you, but I'll take that as a yes. Yeah. Mo.
Aye.
Shagun.
Aye.
Thank you. Tabor.
Aye.
Angie.
Aye.
Steve Olenoff.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
And Elaine Vanya.
Nope.
Did I hear Elaine?
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you. All right. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Just 2 last orders of business on this piece of the agenda. So our council meeting is on March 2nd, and you will have a chance to thank and say goodbye to Monica and good luck in her new role, because she is going to be our speaker. We're very excited that she'll be able to join us at our council meeting. And we will have this slate of elections at our council meeting as well. So again, very important for everyone to attend to help us make quorum. In addition to these 2 officers seats that we will vote on again for the very short time frame until our annual council meeting in May, we have a vacancy currently on the executive committee that was held previously by George Proakis. So we have 1 city seat that is vacant. And then because Imai is moving into this officer's role, we have 1 town seat that is vacant. So we will be caucusing. We'll have a full vote for the officers, and then we'll be caucusing for a city and a town seat on executive committee. So please tell your friends and neighbors if they're appointed to our council and are interested in serving on our executive committee. We've sent out that call for nominations, and you should please encourage them. And then I just again want to thank Jen and Imai for serving. We're very, very excited to work with you. Catherine and I are not taskmasters, but sometimes Mark can be. So we're very excited to have a chance to work with you and move the good work of the agency forward.
Thank you, Lizzie. And again, thank you, Jen and Imai. Very, very much appreciated. All right, with that, item number 9, any business not known at the time of the posting of the agenda? Lizzie, Catherine, anything? Anybody else? Okay, with that, I think we can then entertain a motion to adjourn. We'll get you out of here with 12 minutes to spare.
So moved.
All right, motion was I could not see those voices, but I'm going to say it was made by Mo and seconded by John. That's as good as I can call it. Imai.
Aye.
Colette.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Adam, I vote aye. Jen.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
John. Mo.
Aye.
Shagun.
Aye.
Tabor.
Aye.
Angie.
Aye.
Steve Olenoff.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
And Elaine.
Aye.
All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye,
Have a good
everyone.
week.